Canada, Russia.
So these big superpowers are beginning to position themselves in such a way that water, like energy, is seen as part of their future security, including their military security, including their commercial security. And they're beginning to understand they have to secure future sources of water. The U.S. is doing military training around the Great Lakes, and 80 mayors of towns and cities around the lakes have asked the U.S. government to suspend this, but they're not going to. I got involved in this issue in the mid-1980s when Canada was negotiating a free trade agreement with the United States, and the free trade agreement included water as a good. There was a statement made by one of the participants that Canadian water would be flowing to the United States Midwest from the Canadian North by pipeline within 2 to 5 years. Who knew?
And move that water into a crater in the Rocky Mountains, which would be kind of like a huge mega reservoir.
And nobody will stand up in our country to the United States administration and say, this is our water, because they know that the United States would consider that as serious as if we put missiles along the Canada-U.S. border. It just would not be tolerated in the U.S.
In the new regime, where water is being treated like oil, the protection of that commodity is being ensured through a militarized defense.
And the good part of Brazil sits over top of the largest aquifer in the world, which is called the Guarani Aquifer. This is going to be a major source of fresh water in the future. Very recently, the United States has established a military base located just inside the border of Paraguay. As you know, the United States itself is running out of water. Water is becoming more and more a matter of priority in American foreign policy. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld went on a quiet mission to a number of Latin American places, including Paraguay, to try to see what kind of further advancement could be made regarding the presence of U.S. Forces in that region. Shortly after Rumsfeld's visit, something like 500 special forces were stationed at the military base there in Paraguay.
Este caso, no momento agora, quando os países tomaram conhecimento, já tinha sido aprovado pelo parlamento do Paraguai.
It remains to be seen what will happen and what they're doing there exactly as to whether the purpose of that military base is really to secure a military presence at a very pivotal location for exercising some measure of control over the Guarani Aquifer and water takings from the Guarani Aquifer. In the last few weeks, there's been a report in the media about George W. Bush, the president, purchasing land in Paraguay. The speculation is that that has to do with wanting to have access to the aquifer and pump water out of the aquifer. Jenna Bush, who is the daughter of George W. Bush, had paid a quiet 10-day visit to Paraguay, in particular meeting with top officials in the government. And as it turned out, what was happening, at least this was what the speculation was in the press, was that she was about to facilitate the purchase of something like 100,000 acres of land in Paraguay in her family name. At the same time, though, that was happening, it was discovered that George Bush Sr. already had something like 173,000 acres of land. Was this an example of the Bush oil family now switching from black gold to blue gold, turning to water and purchasing water? Clearly after that, there were a series or a string of denials on the part of the Bush family. Not directly, they did it through agencies, U.S. government agencies.
Eles negam a construção da base.
The world's largest dam is located very close to that area, and so that also was a matter of considerable interest for the U.S. as well.